The search committee and the diaconate that we met with today and then spoke to the Seattle Extension branch of Fuller and found out what they had to tell me. And I went ahead and enrolled, but they really encouraged me if I could to try and get down to the main campus in Pasadena. And so Stacy and I talked about it and thought, you know what, Pasadena is the place to go. But at the same time, our relationship had developed enough that I went ahead and proposed. And so we had been dating for about 5 months when I proposed. We were engaged for 2 years, or for 2 years, for 2 months, sorry. It seemed like 2 years, I was eager. We were engaged for 2 months, and what we did when we were engaged is we unloaded my apartment into a U-Haul, went over, unloaded Stacy's apartment behind my stuff in the U-Haul, and drove down to Pasadena and had 5 days to either find a place or throw it into storage. And we actually on the 5th day found the place we needed, and we threw all of our boxes in there, still packed, and drove straight back, and each of us lived with our parents for the few days it took before we were able to say our vows. We went to Hawaii for our honeymoon, came back the day after we returned from our honeymoon. We moved down to Pasadena, unloaded our boxes, and began our life as a seminary couple. And it was a whirlwind of a time, but it was a blast. And then, while going to seminary, I felt the call to take a look at chaplaincy. And so I went ahead and took a look to see what was involved in the Air Force chaplaincy program, and pursued that some, and so the Air Force helped me pay for some of seminary. And I'm now in the reserves for Air Force chaplaincy. And and then graduated, and now am hoping to find a church to call home and to work as a pastor. That is pretty much our life up till now in a nutshell. So is this something where I want to open it up to questions? Or sure. Yes, sir.
Tim, explain the difference between the A and B chaplaincy.
Sure. There are 2 types of reservists. There's one that's called Category A, and then there's one that's called Category B, and I am Category B. Now, whenever you hear about reserves on TV, about them being called up and the reserves going over to Iraq or to Afghanistan or somehow supporting the war on terror, that is a Category A reservist that has been called up. That is what they are there for. When you sign on the line to be a Category A reservist, there's a recognition that says being called to serve and deployed as part of this agreement. Signing up as a Category B reservist is vastly different. What that says is I am agreeing to help support the country and support men in uniform here in the United States by backfilling when people are brought overseas. And the commitment there is 24 days a year, at least for me as a chaplain. The likelihood of that ever being more than that amount is very minimal. And as a matter of fact, I asked one time, because I thought churches should know, what commitment to reserves was, and so I asked my supervisor, Major Glover, what is the likelihood of me ever being called to do more than that? And he said, Tim, if we ever call you up, we are in a lot of trouble. And I assume that means speaking not about my quality as a chaplain, about what the Category B reservist is there for. The other thing to recognize is that those 24 days that you are to serve can be divided up however works for the church and for the preacher. So that it's possible then to protect Sundays, and that you can pick and choose. Now, the preference of the Air Force and what they really ask that you do is to try and give them, in that 24-day span, 12 that are consecutive. And the rest of that divided up however works best.